Great, and we're live. So welcome everybody to this remote interview. My name is Lisette and I'm interviewing people and companies doing great things remotely. And today on the line, all the way from Philadelphia, I've got Emily Morgan. Emily, welcome. You are the founder of Delegate Solutions, wherein you help entrepreneurial leaders stay productive without the hassles of HR. And we're going to dive deeply into what you do and what that means. But first, let's start with, what does your virtual office look like? What do you need to get your work done?
Yeah, so we've been remote for over 13 years. I started the company myself after my son was born. So it's always been a home office for me. And for me to be productive, I really just need a quiet office space, a computer, Wi-Fi, and a planner. As long as I have those things, I can manage.
So a paper planner or an app
Planner.
planner?
Paper planner. Right now I'm using Full Focus Planner, Michael Hyatt's. No way. Funny.
It's a great planner. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, because when I start my week, I have to sit down and dedicate time to making sure that I'm going to have the most productive week possible. Otherwise, I'll get nothing done. So the planner really provides a place to do that.
Okay. And why a paper planner over an app?
Well, it's funny. We use Asana, which is a task and project management system. I use all different types of apps and stuff, but when it comes to like what I need to get done for the week, I have to write it down. And I'll write it down like I'll be in a meeting and there's like a to-do that I need to do. So I love this planner because if I don't need to do it today, I'll like put it to do it on Thursday or something like that.
I love it too. I've tried every to-do app out there, and I just still had a pile of sticky notes on my desk.
Yeah.
So I just thought, okay, it's pen and paper. I'm just going to go with it. So no rational thought I have to carry this book everywhere I go, but okay, that's what I do. So you said you have a home office, and I want to just quickly ask a question about that, because a lot of people right now are struggling, or I think a lot of remote workers have always struggled with sort of loneliness and motivation and productivity. How does that affect you in the same way, and how do you deal with that?
It really doesn't. I'm naturally an introvert, I think, but I think with COVID, what's impacted me is I was used to going into the city for meetings and things like that. And so not having that in the mix has felt different. But in terms of like working all day, I will work all day from my home office, and I'm talking to people all day long. I'm on Slack all day long. I'm on Zoom. So like, I don't feel disconnected in that way, but I definitely have noticed, it's pretty monotonous to not like go into the city for meetings and stuff.
So that breaking up the day, and I have the same. I miss going to yoga and my language classes and like actually doing 3D things outside of the house.
Yeah, it feels very like monotone, right? Like it feels like we're devoid of color right now. It's really just black and white stuff that's happening each day.
I like the description of monotone.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to definitely get into what you do, but I have one more question about this, because work-life balance is another thing that people really struggle with. And so now that we're talking about sort of this monotone nature of it, you've had experience working from your home office alone for a while now. How do you deal with work-life integration and work-life balance? What sort of things do you have set up for yourself?
Yeah, I think for me, like we don't work nights and weekends in my company, and it's a very distinct start and stop times that we run with. And we try to encourage the same with our clients, because a lot of the times they're coming to us because they haven't been able to find that balance. So we actually train our team. We don't, we shut down and that's the end of the day, and we'll talk to you on Monday, like type of thing. Clients, you can email us, chat us, whatever, but the team's not going to be responsive. So we set that expectation from the beginning just to create some boundaries around our time. But the majority of people that work for me, and myself included, we're really all about freedom and flexibility. So that's why remote work really works for us specifically.
Okay. And so you have your own stop and start times then at the end of the day, and then you just leave the office, shut the door, and then that's it?
Don't even think about it. Absolutely. Like I need a dedicated office space. I think if I didn't have that, it would be harder to do that. But I mean, I'm just so well trained at this point. Back in the early days when I started my company, I would work till I had a young son at the time, so I'd eat dinner after work, hang out with him, put him to bed, and then go back to work until like 2 a.m, work, and then get up again at like 9 or 10 and start all over. And at a certain point, I was in the middle of a divorce, and that kind of life was not going to work for me anymore because I was a single mom and there was no way to raise my son and be present in the way that I needed to and maintain a schedule like that. So at that point, I really just put the boundaries in place to just create the separation.
And did your work suffer at all from doing that? Or
No,
did it? Okay.
not in the least. I think, it was around that time that I really started investing in a team. Initially in the early days, it was just me. I was, the virtual assistant servicing the clients. And, at a certain point, it was like, all right, what am I doing? Am I just, trying to work as many hours in a week as I can because you're really billable for your time? Or am I trying to build a company? And I started to make that distinction around the same time.
Super smart distinction, right? Like, yeah, it is different. Do you want to work as much as possible, or do you want to actually build a company? And that's where Delegate Solutions comes in, actually. So you offer premium virtual assistants, it says on the website, to help entrepreneurial leaders stay productive without the hassle of HR. So tell us a little bit about Delegate Solutions and why you started it 13 and a half years ago.
Well, let's start with why I started it. So I started it because I was having a son. I had spent the early part of my career as an admin and really knew I was raised by a stay-at-home mom. She was a teacher at a certain point. And so I just knew that I didn't want for myself daycare and running here and there and commuting in and out of the city every day. And I wanted to be present for my son, but I still wanted to have professional, meaningful work. So I learned about the virtual assistant industry as I was pregnant with him and started Delegate the summer after he was born. So it was all about being present and having that freedom to work on my own terms, but still do work that I enjoyed.
And spend time with your family. So
Correct.
what is a premium virtual assistant?
Yeah, so most people are, finally now familiar with the term virtual assistant. For many years, I've been fighting this battle, just trying to explain conceptually what it is that we do. But basically, we're fractional admin. So we'll work with clients 1 to 2 hours a day, all the way up to full time as their dedicated assistant. What makes us different is that we work in teams. So when you work with us, you get assigned 2 team members, and we like to think of it as the thinker and the doer. So one of them is really there to create the delegation strategy, do the project management, put processes together, run weekly planning and accountability calls with you. And the other is there to execute. So they're in there doing your inbox and calendar, booking your travel, handling, signing up your kids for soccer, and they work together in tandem so that you never find yourself in a position where you wake up and you have no assistant because they've quit or they've disappeared. With our system, it's really a goals-focused strategic approach to delegation coupled with managed support. So our team are our employees, they're all US based, and everybody works from home around the country.
So I can already hear a whole bunch of entrepreneurs in my head going, "Oh my God, I need a virtual assistant." So how does one know when is the right time to hire somebody else on? It's got to be really tricky for entrepreneurs, right? Because it's a revenue problem. Like, do you have enough revenue to bring somebody else on? And there's that gray area where you're not quite sure. And sometimes when you bring the assistant on, you can increase your revenue because you can get more done and releasing all the little stuff so that you can do the thinking. How do you know when's the right time?
So, I mean, I'm probably the biggest delegation advocate you'll ever meet. So I have a very liberal opinion about it. But to me, like, if you're trying to leverage your time, you need an assistant. And I think what's beautiful about the way that we work is that it's not this huge commitment. It's a monthly retainer of about an hour a day of help. And, you know, if you start to think about it in terms of, let's say your time is worth $250 an hour, right? And you're going to pay a firm like ours $60 an hour. Think of how much more productive you can be. You're making more money. So my experience has been every time that I invest in team, and I'm not just talking admin, I'm talking investing in my team, we grow. So that's been my experience. And you know, I just think there's so many things that entrepreneurs are doing that they don't need to be doing, that they're not good at, that they don't enjoy doing. And if time and energy are your most valuable asset, you need to be thinking strategically about how you're going to best leverage that.
What are the things that people need the most help with? Is there a common problem that everybody comes to, like, oh my God, my email inbox?
Yes.
Or
I mean, typically the top things are calendaring. So we do what we call gatekeeper scheduling, where we're going to protect your week and put your week together in a way so that you're working more efficiently. And you're delegating the back and forth of all the scheduling. We'll throw in some automations, you know, for sales calls or team calls where we're using software, but we're really helping maximize time. The other sort of main thing that we do is inbox, like you said. Sometimes we'll just go in there and get it cleaned up. Sometimes we'll go in there and actually manage what you're looking at when you're going into the inbox, find the delegations within the email, send them over to our team to handle the back and forth. So it really depends on your own comfort level with letting go of email.
why are people hesitating? What's the fear around virtual assistants at this point? Is it just that the work won't get done? They're afraid. I mean, everybody's kind of afraid of letting things go. I'm definitely a control freak myself. So what are people afraid of? Why are they hesitating? Because who doesn't want an assistant, right? Sounds awesome.
I have so much content on this question, actually.
I can imagine.
I think where people stop is they don't know what to delegate and they don't know how to delegate. And so that is really the secret sauce to what we do, is we put together a delegation strategy that helps you figure out, okay, I have all this stuff going on. Where am I going to get the most ROI? So that's a differentiator of our service. And I think people get nervous because of the story I shared earlier. You wake up and you don't have an assistant, and suddenly you've let all these things go to the point where you don't even remember how to do them half the time or what they were, and poof, this person is gone. And VAs have a terrible reputation for that. And so again, we're solving this problem because we're a managed solution. These are our employees. They are salaried employees now. This is new for us. We're salarying the team, and there's no HR. So even if it's not a fit, you're not getting along with the team assigned, or somebody quits or somebody is sick, we handle the transfer of knowledge and the transfer of talent in and out in a way that you don't have to worry about.
Love it. So why do virtual assistants have this reputation? I've heard this too. Why are they ghosters? What's going on?
I don't know that I could totally answer that question. I think I can tell you that the average lifespan of a VA is less than a year. And so we're always trying to beat that average with our team. That's why we employ them. You're not going to find a lot of firms that employ them. You're not going to find a lot of firms that manage them. And you know, we get hundreds of applications a week that we're
wow
through. So I think that people think it's just this easy, you know, flex job. And it is, but it's a responsible job. And it's like a thoughtful job. And so for us, it's about finding people that are looking for the challenge and the flexibility. And that's sort of done for you. Like, they don't want to have a company. They don't want to have to go out and find clients or figure out which billing software to use. They just want to come in. They love helping people. And the job sort of fits into their life. That's who we hire.
Okay. And what are the kinds of people that are virtual assistants? Is it moms? Is there a men-women divide or an age divide of any kind?
I can tell you that I built the company typically with moms that are, trying to be present to raise family, to care for aging parents. But with COVID, it's been such a challenge because moms are the most impacted of everyone, I feel. So we've really had to shift the way that we're thinking about who's a right fit for delegate because of this challenge that moms are facing. So, we've made some changes in our hiring approach to deal with that.
I can imagine. It seems like virtual and remote work is such a perfect fit for stay-at-home parents. And I mean, so many other groups like military spouses, anybody with a physical disability. I mean, it opens up the marketplace in such beautiful ways to bring people back into the workforce. It seems very exciting.
Yeah.
So I have so many questions. But keep an eye on the time. So what do people get wrong with delegation that you see? So you're coming up with these delegation strategies. I can imagine. What do you see people getting wrong most of the time, or one of the things?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I can reverse the question a little bit, I think what you want to focus on when you're delegating is really around being clear on the end result and the success criteria of the delegation. Now, I'm not talking like order flowers for my wife, right? I'm talking like I'm trying to put together this program. And so a lot of our work with clients is helping them take the time to figure out what success looks like in this idea, because entrepreneurs specifically are notorious for just ideating and they don't really know, they haven't really sat down to think through. They think they know what they want, but we kind of sit there and work them through, okay, what does success look like? Give me 5 success criteria that you think means that this has been a win. So that's one, is they're not clear on the result. 2, I think it's really smart if you can think about ways to delegate 80% of a project so that you're really just left with the last 20%. So I'll use this technique with my assistant, Georgia. I'll say, look, I need to write an article on X, Y, and Z. She'll go out, she'll find me data points around a certain article. She'll find me quotes for people. She'll put a time block on my calendar to write the blog post so that it's done in time. Like what, and then the 20% is I'm just sitting there. I have everything I need to just get that thing done at that time.
That is awesome. I'm totally incorporating that tip for the next blog post I have to write. Of course, like why not have my assistant just get the skeleton in place and then I can fill it in. Genius. Okay, so clearly people need you. Anybody listening, so we'll get to the information about that. I want to though ask about specifically your team and some of the challenges that you face just working within, because you have a 100% remote team for the entire time that you've had this company. It's been 100% remote. And I guess that's a whole virtual assistant would be based on that anyway. But what are the challenges that you've had on your team in terms of working remotely?
Yeah, I think there's a learning curve for people who haven't. So we definitely look to see, has someone worked remotely before? I think for us also another challenge is time tracking, because we sell time for money at the end of the day. So we use Harvest as a time tracking tool. So that is something that's hard for people to get used to if they haven't done that before. And, for us, I think the third challenge is around time management. So in our work, we're working with sometimes, 5 to 10 clients a day our team is working with. So they have to be incredibly smart with how they're spending their time, because we tell our clients, we'll check in on you 3 times across the day, move things forward. So that means that the team has to batch their work, and they work, they'll work on you, they'll work on me, they'll work on Tom, and then they'll come back, they'll work on you, they'll work on me, they'll work on Tom. So we have to train them in how to batch their time and use time blocking to get stuff done.
Amazing. Yeah, it sounds very simple, but as somebody, I just took a productivity course this morning on Udemy, and time blocking, I thought, oh yeah, of course, like, because I get so distracted by all the stuff, right? Like it's like stuff all over the place. So it's good to just take it, like not multitask. We're focusing on this now. And so I can imagine.
That's the worst feeling, to like sit down and have all this time and you're like, I don't even know where to start, you know?
Totally, totally. On your website, it says that people go through a lot of training in order to become virtual assistants. So I'm assuming this time blocking. So how did you start that? It just to make sure that people had the correct skills or that everybody was behaving the same? Tell me a little bit about the training that you give people.
Yeah, I mean, for us, like, I'm 100% trusting that you're delivering a service that I've sold someone, right? Like, I have no way to watch every second that my team is working. It's impossible. So it comes down to training for us and shadowing. So we have about a 3-week training program that includes virtual modules of training, with tests and handouts and shadowing. So our team will shadow people doing the job, you know, for a long period of time. And then we have what we call PACs, that are peer accountability circles, which is a new thing for us this year, but we've created a new level of management, because until about 6 months ago on our accountability chart, technically everyone reported to me, which was insane. So we created groups of about 5 to 6 team members that work in PACs, and they have a success manager that's managing that specific team of team members, and they're managing the client success, making sure the client's getting what they need.
Oh, I love it. So it's like accountability partnerships or a little group where you can report back on your progress and ask questions, or somebody cares whether it happened or not, which is a very
Oh
motivating
yeah,
force.
it's an incredibly engaged environment at my company. Like, it's not like you come in and you never hear from anybody. Like, we use Slack all day long. We have weekly team huddles once a week where we do 15 minutes of information, and then they have their weekly pack meetings. We have a monthly team training, and every quarter I give a state of the company where I talk about what's going on within the company, how we're doing with the metrics that we set, what we accomplished this quarter, where we're going next quarter. So like, we have transparency as one of our core values. So that sort of bleeds through the whole organization as much as we possibly can.
And you mentioned the metrics that you set. So I'd like to just dive a little bit into what that means. So because a lot of companies right now are going from hours-based work into results-based work. And so and you're kind of doing a combination of both, right? You're selling time, of course, but you still, I mean, which is it's a totally different thing. So how do you organize it so that people are aligned towards the same goals in your company? Do you use OKRs? How do people set their own personal goals based on your company's goals?
Yeah, so we run on EOS, the Entrepreneur's Operating System, and part of that is a lot of scorecards and metrics. So our team is tracking against staying billable, right? So that's one of their metrics. So they need to stay at least 80% billable. So if they're tracking 100 hours, 80 of those hours are billable to the client. So we look at those kind of metrics. It's not necessarily like results based like you might find in other roles. Ours is like more quantifying, are you doing the job type
Mm-hmm.
metrics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds yeah, it's pertinent to what you're doing. So which I think is important, I think, for anybody listening, is you have to find the system that works for you, that is applicable to you. So like the Spotify squad model is not going to fit every single company, neither is any particular model, for example, or any of the circles. Okay, I've got tons of questions, but okay, a couple that are jumping out. How has COVID affected your company? So when we're recording this right now, it is the middle of August. I have to check the calendar. The whole thing's because it's like a episode of Groundhog Day all year. Don't know where we are in the year. So it's August right now when we're recording this. So, you know, COVID has been happening about since March. Like, what are the changes that you've seen in the virtual assistant landscape or to your company in this last few months?
Yeah, it was terrifying initially. I think for all small business owners here in the States in particular, it was very terrifying experience to go through. For us, it was a trickle down of our clients' businesses being impacted. Therefore, they kind of pulled back on service. We made it through without laying anybody off. And currently we've been having our best months ever in terms of new business sold. So like, because remote work became normalized overnight, it really helped a large part of what I do, because now people get remote work, get that it can be done. Whereas for a decade, I'm pushing that rock up a hill trying to explain why we can do this remotely and why it works. Now suddenly everyone's doing it remotely.
Right. So that whole aspect is now it's more like how, not the why that we're doing. What are your tips for hiring people? Because you've hired probably a lot of assistants. So what do you look for when you're hiring?
We are constantly working on this, specifically this year, because turnover kills my business, because it's a relationship business and it's really painful. No matter what we put in place, it's still really hard to go through that. So this is the number one thing that we work on. We worked on it this year, but we're using Workable as our hiring tool. And we've incorporated one-way video interviews in there. So anyone that applies, if we think it's a fit, they get a one-way video interview. We hired a full-time in-house recruiter, which is brand new for us as of this month, actually. We moved into Bamboo HR, which is an HRIS platform, so that we sort of have a lot more clarity around how we're managing our team, which has been helpful. But we're just constantly working on it. So we're looking for core values fit. I'm specifically looking to see, do they have a heart for admin? Like, do they really love helping others? Because that to me is what it boils down to.
Right. Right. Do you actually enjoy this kind of work? Not just, is it just a job? Is it?
Is it, I just want to work remotely and anybody can do admin. So like we use something called Colby, where we test for their own aptitude to be able to do this type of work naturally. But for me, I got to understand your story. Like, why are you here? Why is this job a fit for you? How does your background support that story? And I'm like the very last interview. So like, there's a lot of things happening before they even hit my desk.
Right, right. You want to filter. Okay, before we get to the last couple of questions, I've read that you've started a virtual kids camp, and I've just got to know more. What is the virtual kids camp?
Yeah, so this was one of our COVID response items. Again, I shared our team is almost all moms, and like overnight we had no school and it was just chaos. So we actually we created something called Virtual Kids Camp, where our team would volunteer in hour slots across the day to teach a certain topic. So like there was a point where my mother was teaching hula. I was like teaching kids how to make cards for first responders. We had math classes, like you name it. The team just stepped up and we like shared responsibility, like a village coming together to take care of these kids. So, this was like right in the beginning. We did it for about a month on Zoom. So our kids got to like see each other and hang out, and we all took turns hosting. Our clients, even one of our clients, like he taught Chinese, and another child, our daughter, was teaching drawing. Like she's an art student in college. So everybody just kind of came together and just produced this, this thing for our kids and for our clients' kids.
That's amazing, actually, and really just shows the power of what can be done virtually. It might not be ideal, it might not be better, but it's better than nothing, which is,
like, hours a day where the employee or the client could just get a couple things for work done.
Right.
Because that's like, I think the biggest thing I think people need to understand is we're not in a normal remote work state right now. Like this is not normal to try and work with children home, but we're all doing the best that we can and making modifications, but like, this isn't like the model, right? Like our kids should be able to go to school and then we're working like we used to.
Yeah, indeed. I was talking to a neighbor yesterday morning. Actually, I went running and saw her on the way back, and she said that she has 2 kids at home and a whole bunch of pets, but they're all sharing one laptop. So between her trying to get her work done and her 2 kids going to school, they only have one laptop between them. And I thought, oh my God, I couldn't share my laptop. I'm only me and my husband. I can't share my laptop. Like,
Right.
so I can imagine, but hearing stories like this, and also my sister has a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Like, what are you going to do? What do you do then? You know, like it's parents have gone through so much, I think, in this COVID experience, and the online learning is crazy at this point, but better than nothing. So, and I've been really excited about the creativity I think that's come out with all of this. So, man, I have so many more questions, but we're nearing the end of the time. So I'm going to end with the last one, or two last ones. One is, what advice do you have for people who are just starting out? If you're wondering, like, do I get an assistant or do I not get an assistant? Or it could be remote working advice, but what advice do you have for people who are just starting out?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go general on this. So for me, I think you got to think big, and you have to know where you're trying to go, or at least the general direction, and what's the next best thing that you can do to get there. So don't get bogged down in a million details of how you're getting from here to there. Like, just know where there is, and figure out what's the next thing that you can possibly do to move it forward, would be my first bit of advice. And then the second one is, invest in the best possible team, because it will pay for itself in dividends. And that's just an experience share for me, not even specific to admins, but anytime that I've dropped cash on hiring somebody, in terms of like my leadership team, management team, it always pays for itself, if not even more so. And I think that the last thing I would say is, fear is part of the gig. And so you have to be comfortable with being scared every day, and that's okay.
Yeah, it is not for the faint-hearted in terms of taking that leap, indeed. But I love this advice of investing in the best people possible. And I've said that actually when I was first doing my interviews for the book. One of the things that people said in the beginning was, don't pay for 3 mediocre people, save the money and pay for one really, really, really good person. Even though you think you might need 3, don't do it. Really invest in the one, because and I think it was also in Jim Collins's book, Good to Great. He says, get the right people on the bus. Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent book, indeed. My husband's reading it right now, and I'm like, what are you outlining? What are you outlining? He looks at what are you highlighting? I want to know. Yeah. So, okay. So that, and the very last question, what's the best way to get in touch with you and find out more? So I'll definitely be linking to the website. But what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, that's the best way. So delegatesolutions.com. And there's tons of content on there. We actually just put out a whole bunch of new pieces this week. So, anything you need, if you're trying to think about what to think about when you're looking for a VA, how to get ready to hire an assistant, what to delegate, how to delegate. It's a delegation plethora of information on there. So, I'm sure if you have questions, it's a great place to start.
So what I would advise people is just reach out and get started. Don't do all the research yourself. Have Emily and her team hand walk you through the process. Much easier. You'll save a lot of time that way. Emily, yeah, I mean, you could do all the research yourself, but I think after this interview, they trust that you know what you're doing. And so I would say just get in contact and let Emily take you through the process, and relax. Somebody else knows how to do this. So delegate. Let's end it by saying delegate. So Emily, thank you so much for taking the time today. I took a whole bunch of notes, so I think that the listeners will find a lot of value in this conversation. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you. All right, everybody, until next time. Oh, sorry. Be powerful.